Item 10C, receive a report regarding settlement of Regional Water Quality Control Board versus San Bruno and Baykeeper versus San Bruno, and authorize the city manager to sign both settlement agreements. Staff, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is a report on two settlements that would become final if you authorize the city manager to sign the agreements that are attached to the staff report. Let me just make a couple of brief comments. Our Community Services Director, Clara Fabry, is also here as well. These settlements would achieve the goal of reducing the city's sewer system overflows, and we'll abbreviate those as SSOs. So the staff believes that that's good for the environment, good for the residents, and good for the city. And let me elaborate briefly as to why that is. Unfortunately, the city has experienced many SSOs over the past years, which made us, as well as other peninsula cities, a target for litigation from environmental organizations as well as from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. I think all of the parties involved in the litigation can agree that reducing the number and extent of SSOs is important to protect the environment. With a lot of SSOs, the city's residents can be subjected to property damage and loss of use of their personal and real property. That costs the city money in claims and litigation expenses. And if these cases proceed to litigation instead of settling as proposed, then the city could be subjected to hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional fines, penalties, and attorney's fees, far in excess of what we've been able to successfully negotiate. Now, as you know, the city retained very experienced outside counsel to represent the city's interests in these negotiations, and those negotiations extended for many months. The attorneys briefed you in closed session along the way, and you made a very thoughtful and, we believe, cost-effective decision to resolve these matters now instead of prolonging them at far greater expense. And the settlements that staff is proposing here tonight are indeed consistent with other settlements on the peninsula. All of the other parties, Baykeeper and the Regional Board, have approved these agreements. And in fact, you should know that at the most recent public hearing, the Regional Water Quality Control Board praised the city's efforts in reaching a settlement. Staff therefore recommends authorizing the city manager to sign both agreements on behalf of the city. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair, quick one. Within these large document, there are various capital improvement projects. A affirmative vote, at least from myself, would not automatically, in my view, for myself, speaking from only me, is that would automatically say yes to all these capital improvement projects. I think that there are ways it needs to be looked at, whether it's shared services, whether it's contracting out, or whatever it is. But that I wanted to understand that this yes vote on this does not necessarily encompass all the capital improvement projects as they go forward without having further review and dialogue and vote by the council.
I think the City Council retains the discretion to decide how to implement the capital improvement program.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Irene?
No, I had none. Thank you.
Nothing.
May I add
Yes.
to the answer to
Manager.
Councilmember Medina's question? It is fully staff's intent to treat any capital project or budget issue that is anticipated to be implemented in response to and by virtue of the settlement agreements, to treat those in the normal manner that we treat any other budget or capital project issue. In other words, those items will return to the City Council for budget authority and for award of construction contracts. That said, the Council should, at least in my opinion, understand in authorizing these settlement agreements that they were carefully and arduously negotiated over a fairly long period of time, which I believe the Council is well aware of. And it is fully expected as a result of our execution, your approval and my execution of these agreements, that the necessary work effort will be performed in order to reduce sanitary sewer overflows. our failure to accomplish that, whether it's by the specifics of the anticipated actions or potentially over time by other actions, our failure to do so would subject the city to the potential for substantial additional penalties or legal action.
Ken?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, can you please explain so that those that are maybe listening to us, we're not settling because we necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, these are environmentalists that have come here and said, we, for their own benefits and for, their own programs, feel that we haven't done enough. And by all means, we have master plans. We have, for many years now, have been, trying, to minimize, these type of occurrences. But I don't want the public to think that we got, financially and severely slapped on the wrist, for something that we did wrong. So I know you can explain it in simpler and more concise terms.
Well, I don't think so. I think you said it well in saying that the plaintiffs in the litigation did not believe that the city did enough, despite its current and ongoing efforts to reduce SSOs. Having said that, we did have a lot of SSOs, and certainly in comparison to other cities on the peninsula. So that's one of the things that made us a target. So despite some of our best efforts in limited budget times, some choices were made, and so we had more SSOs than some other comparable cities. Having said that, the capital improvement program that's contemplated in the settlement agreements is a more aggressive effort to resolve those issues so that we protect the environment, protect the citizens, and protect the city.
Thank you.
Having said that, before we take action, I just want to say also the citizens of this city should know that we have aggressively over the last number of years bit the bullet to a lot of criticism to raise rates so that we could aggressively pursue SSOs and all the other infrastructure problems we have in some of these areas of the city that are well over 100 years old. If we were a foster city or a much newer community where we have very little spills, it's not an issue. Or if we were a city that was derelict in our duties going, backwards and forwards and just said we don't really care, then I could see the fines and the penalties. I understand the aggressive nature we're going to have to pursue more aggressive than before going forward, but for me, I'll approve this, but it's very unfortunate that the fines and penalties monies, to me, would be a lot better spent under the streets and the sidewalks of this city instead of paying them out, because those are monies that we can't use in the future to aggressively pursue the SSOs that we've been trying to do. So, and unfortunately going forward, anything that's a shortfall will in fact have to go to the ratepayers. That's a very unfortunate situation. And some cities are worse shape than we are, and some are a lot better. So it's really an unfortunate situation. I'd much rather see, instead of fines and penalties, the money's going to what we were doing in the first place, which is attacking this problem that we have under the streets and sidewalks of our city. So having said that, I'd ask for some action.
Through the chair, I'd make a motion that we authorize the city manager to secure the settlement, sign the settlement.
Second.
It's a resolution. Right?
Is it a resolution?
Is it a resolution?
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. I'm sorry. Okay.
Just by motion.
It's a motion.
It's a motion. Okay. There is a motion and a second on the floor on the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.